Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today, we have a feast for you. So hopefully you are hungry. Was that good, Aram? Was that good? It was short and quick. Normally, we haven't done an introduction in a while. We just start talking and then randomly do an intro.
I kind of feel special right now. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Tom, this is a group of guys that are all short and quick. So this is going to be perfect.
Awesome.
Tom, how do you say your last name? Is it Mattice? Or Matt?
So, Mattice, I always say sounds like, I like Mattice. It's like stronger.
Oh.
People, they say Mattice, and I'm like, let's go Mattice. A little harder on the Tice part.
Is that because you're anti-France?
No comment.
I had to throw it.
Hey, listen, man. You know what? It's where the name originated from, actually. So it's funny that's how it worked out.
Well, fuck them. They gave us the Eiffel Tower, and they gave us you.
Yeah, fucking pisser. I'm a pisser, so you'll be happy with that.
So I connected with you, just for context for the audience. I connected with you online because you were coaching another one of our podcast guests. And obviously you're in the business of extracting the best out of people like we are. And that's not always an easy task. And I think it comes down to the ability that you have to see through hard times in life. And you have had no shortage of those hard times. So I want you to kind of go through some of your history to be able to tell our audience why you are equipped to be able to extract the best in people.
So first, let me thank you for letting me on the show. I'm excited to really get things going. I think I have a pretty interesting story. I know everybody has their battles and tribulations and trials and things like that. For me, pretty much, I was born with spina bifida. If people don't know what that really is, usually the spinal cord's on the outskirts of the body. Mine was still on the inside. Early 1987, Scotland, I was born in. So The technology wasn't as good as it is here. And also just like the knowledge base. There was no computers. Like, it was women talking to women, nobody knew about taking certain vitamins and, kind of one of those things. So my parents did the best they could. They didn't find out. Usually you can find out if somebody has spina bifida earlier in the stage now. But back then it was kind of just rural Scotland. It was one of those things where let's see what happens.
What kind of things did that condition create as far as quality of life disruption for you?
So I actually lived a normal life when I was younger. I lived a pretty normal life. I BMX'd. I was semi-pro BMX rider. Played video games. Did the regular things. Played football in high school. It was normal until I hit about probably about 18. My left leg started going numb. I went to a bunch of doctors. Everybody saying, you're good. And then one doctor was like, listen, go to a neurosurgeon. They're probably not going to be able to do much for you. I ended up going to the neurosurgeon. He looked at me and he goes, this is probably one of the rarest cases of spina bifida I've ever seen.
Jesus.
It was called a tethered cord. So what happens is the spinal cord, the more I grew, so the sacrum at the bottom, the more I grew, the spinal cord started to stretch because there was a bone speared through it.
Okay.
So it kind of started fraying off the spinal cord itself. So I started losing nerve endings and all that. Literally fast forward, I was working, had insurance, thank God. I was pretty much an assembler, welder, doing all those things at a company. And he's like, listen, we got to go into surgery, within a couple of weeks, or this could turn out bad and you could be paralyzed. And 2 weeks later, I was under the knife. No problems. Everything went well. The surgery was 8 hours long. Went really well. So after that, I went back to work in 3 months. He looked at me. He was like, I've never seen somebody really recover that fast.
And what did they do, Tom? Did they try to reattach nerve endings or connect nerve endings better?
So it's actually, I'm glad you actually asked. So it was kind of like this. So you have your fluid in your spinal cord right here, like that. So what they did was they cut the damaged parts and reconnected it.
Okay.
And then what happened is I had to lay on my back for 9 days straight because the fluid, if it were to come, let's do it this way, too much this way, it would come out.
Okay.
So I could take a little bit of pressure, but I couldn't stand up because then that fluid would come down, create too much pressure, and then blow out the sides. That's pretty much how he kind of gave it to me in layman's terms. So 9 days on my back, pretty much, and healed up pretty well. I started actually running. Had a mentor that taught me how to run, which was pretty interesting because it was kind of cool. You never realize who's going to mentor you in life. He was a 65-year-old black man. I was 19 at the time.
That's
And
awesome.
he just taught me, he was a pisser. He taught me a lot about life. We had some really good conversations, and he was one of the foundations to like the man I am today. There was never no holds bars with him. You know, he would tell me how it was. And I mean, he lived in the activist time frame. So, I mean, for him, it was like, he didn't really know who I was, and I was working underneath him, and he kind of just took me under his wing and gave me tough love, but also gave me love.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where I started to understand like how to mold with people. So going back to getting done with the surgery, there was a track behind the building that we were working in. So he taught me how to run. I actually ran one time it was like 3 months into me running, I ran a 5-minute and 56-minute mile. And I
Wow.
didn't know that was good.
That's fucking great.
I didn't know that was actually good. So like one thing, it's cool that I can really get to talk about experience, because people ask me like, how did you make it so far? Because realistically, I'm 37. I should have been dead a long time ago. Or, you know, as an infant or just as a teen, just like really crippled. So I just didn't have boundaries. I didn't know, like, there wasn't the internet. So I didn't know, like, hey, man, you're doing more things than people could ever do. And, like, I didn't have those boundaries of, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Hey, this is not going to work out. So I kind of just kept pushing it. So I ran that, and I didn't know that was such an incredible feat until literally, I don't know, 6 years later when I told somebody, they're like, wait, what? And I just said, yeah. Like, I remember he timed me and everything. And he didn't really give me props. He was, like I said, he was an old school dude. So I don't think he even really had that in him, in a sense, because he was a marathon runner. He was a sprinter his whole life. So again, it was hard love, which I actually enjoyed more than anything else, because the prize at the end was, it wasn't like every time I did something, it was, good job, buddy. Good job,
Yeah.
you know? So after that, about 6 months later after that surgery, I started limping again. Started limping again. Go back to my doctor. They do an MRI. Come to find out, I had another disorder. It's where I pretty much create cysts. So my spinal cord runs, and there was a cyst pinned against the spinal cord. So pretty much it was doing this, and then it was creating more a smaller passageway for the fluid to come through. And that's when I started getting pretty much, it's called a drop foot. So I couldn't really run as much. I was pushing like these big boiler units. And I remember it was like, I started to like limp. And then one of my buddies said to me, he goes like, you know, you good? And I was like, let me go to the doctors. Come to find out, that's what happened. He looked at me. He's like, man, unfortunately, we have to go back in for surgery again. Go back into surgery. This time the recovery was, you know, probably about a 6 months recovery. I was back to work in about 4 or 5 months at that point, because I hate being idle. It's just one of those things that like, it irks me. I got to be doing something. So go back, and it just was never the same. I actually can show you guys. I have, because my right leg's starting to go numb. So this is called an AFO. So pretty much what it does, it goes inside the shoe here. So now this piece, I always heel toe when I walk. I had this on my left leg the first time. Now it's on my right leg because I'm losing all feeling in my right leg. So going for surgery, then drop foot just became very prevalent at that point. I had to wear the brace pretty much. Wore the brace for about 7 years. But then what kept happening was this piece right here, as you can see, it was starting to dig into my foot. So what happened was I ended up getting an ulcer. The ulcer turned into MRSA. And then it would just be continuous PICC lines after PICC lines after PICC lines. And I don't know if you guys know what PICC lines are.
Familiarize us with it, please.
So PICC lines are pretty much, it stays inside you. It's pretty much like a small tube. Every day you go in and you get antibiotics put in. And for 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Usually a lot of diabetics get it because diabetics are really prone to a lot of diseases, not healing well, things like that. So the PICC line, you can't lift more than 10 pounds.
Okay.
Well, that's a problem, especially when you're trying to go through life, you're doing everything, and then boom, knocks you down. And that's where I think I started to understand about comebacks and really trying to dig deep. And back then I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. Like, why me? And I just started getting older and started realizing, like, why not you? You know, like, it's going to teach you lessons, and I firmly believe like a lot of these things started teaching me lessons. Fast forward, that was my second surgery was when I was like 22, 23. fast forward about almost not 8 years later. So this was 4 years ago. I had gotten MRSA again. And at this point, I ended up getting a bone infection.
Jesus Christ.
So they pretty much told me, they were like, listen, we can give you the opportunity to get rid of it. And I was like, and 2 years before that, I was in the hospital for MRSA. And just like, and then I'm a clean person. I kept clean. The thing is, I did a lot of jujitsu. I did a lot of jujitsu, even with the dead leg. So I did tournaments, things like that. So I was able to become a champion in those certain things. So they gave me the opportunity, and I was like, yeah, let's just do it. Because you become more solidified with who you are at a certain point, in a certain age. At first I thought it was more like, shit, like I can't walk around with no leg. Like I can't do that. People will start making fun of me. Like I will be embarrassed. And then I got to a certain point where I'm like, no, this is my journey. This is what I gotta do. From there, I got the leg cut off, started going through my journey. Everything was going good. And then I remember I went out to get breakfast. I looked at my wife at the time, and I started walking up the stairs, and I looked at her and I go, my right leg's not working anymore.
Fuck, man.
So she goes, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I think it's time to go to the hospital. So we ended up going to the hospital. That dorse cyst had came back, started pinning against my spinal cord again. This is when they had to go in for emergency surgery. Going for emergency surgery, they cut me open. They cut my whole spine, like from my lower sacrum to about L3, I think it was. They cut my spinal cord open. They started taking the dorse cyst off my spinal cord, and then it burst inside.
Jesus Christ.
So then the surgery went from a 4-hour surgery to another 8-hour surgery. They had to irrigate my whole spinal cord, everything out, because all that fluid will just start popping cysts up. And so they had to irrigate it all, make sure it was all clean. They closed me up, and now, at the age of 32, 33, recovery is not like what it was when I was 20. And didn't matter what kind of supplements I was taking, didn't matter what kind of recovery I was doing. It was just, okay, this is going to be a rough ride. So then that point happened. I was good. Everything was going well. I started getting back to training. A year later, come to find out, I had a cyst pocule inside my stump after healing. It blew up inside. Then I ended up back in surgery. Then I was back in the hospital for 2 weeks at that point because we were fighting. My body hadn't gotten septic. It was I had cellulitis too while it was happening. So the amount of painkillers, that's where I realized like painkillers don't really do much for me because they had a team of doctors come in and look at me and just go like, I've never seen somebody take so many opioids and still be awake. And I said to them, and they were afraid to let me leave. And I think this is a good story because they were afraid to let me leave. And I think a lot of people can understand this. They were sitting there talking. They're like, we can't really give you the medication that you have. They had a fentanyl patch. I was on oral morphine. I had Dilaudid in me every 3 hours. The pain was just excruciating. I'm not somebody that's going to sit here and like whine because I don't cry wolf because I realize that doesn't get you far in life. Crying wolf, being the victim is not going to get you far. I'm sorry. It just doesn't get you there. People feel sorry for you and then they'll shun you off because now you're not competition for them. In their world, and I know it sounds weird, but it's just one of those things in an animalistic world. It's like, well, I can help you only so much, but you're not going to help yourself, so we're good here. And then they move on. Yeah. So for me, I never felt like being victim was going to always benefit me. So it was more like, fuck, I got to get up. I got to figure this out. That all happened. The doctors came in. They stood by me, and there was 10 of them. And they said to me, like, we never seen anybody take this many drugs, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at them. I go, let me tell you something. I go, have you ever been in love? And they looked at me, and I go, and they're like, yeah. I go, that's when you wake up, that's who you think about. When you go to bed, that's who you think about. I said, if I wake up and that's the first thing I think about, they're literally going into the toilet because that's when I know I'm getting addicted. And they all stopped and looked at me and they're like, that's a really good metaphor to get to a point where it's like, if you're waking up thinking about that, there's a problem now. Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you really are ever in love, that's the first person that you're thinking about. Whether it's a dog, whether it's an animal or just like your person. If that's the first thing you're thinking about, now if it's an opioid, like, oh, I need to get my painkillers and you're not really in pain, now we have a problem. So Got out of surgery.
How bad were the bad days? I'm very curious because I mean I just not that anything I've ever gone through even pales in comparison
Aram
to this,
knows
but I remember
exactly.
the first day after Achilles surgery. I've never felt that type of pain after that. What'd you say?
There must be a massive delay. I was
Jimmy
about to
froze
say,
again.
I'll just leave. Ignore me if you can hear it.
I heard you. I heard you. I'm here.
Yeah, we hear you right now.
Yeah, I said Aram knows exactly everything you went through. He had his Achilles torn. It's delayed.
Yeah, totally. No, but like the pain after the nerve block wore off was really, really bad to the point where like I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not taking painkillers. I'm not going to be that guy. And then like 3 hours into it, I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm taking hydrocodone. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't want to feel like this. What were the bad days like for you?
So when I was younger, I had bad days, but I always had that feeling like, again, I didn't have those boundaries. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just get back to life. And then life hits you again. And then you're like, all right, I got to get back to life. And for me, I'm a gym person. I'd always get to a certain point. I would be a mutant right now if I had no injuries. I always said is like, if I didn't have any of these issues, I'd be Thanos. Because even the stuff that I do now is almost unstoppable, where like even my nerve doctors are just like, every time I see them, they're like, you're still together, huh? And it was one of those things where like some people can take that and like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Like me, I'm like, you can keep seeing me. I would say that the days started getting harder after my third spinal cord surgery. You get older and you start to realize what the world is, and you start to realize that this world will rob you of your happiness. And it was like you would sit in the dark spots for a little while and go, do I really want to kind of beat this? Do I really want to try to get up from this?
Like, keep fighting, right? Like, it must have gotten exhausting at some point to just keep fighting.
It does. And that's, I should change my name from Feast to the Comeback Kid at this point, because it's been a lot of roundabout things. So the darkest days were dark. I mean, how to take myself out, I always looked at it this way, like a wolf. When a wolf's hurt, it moves away from the pack so they don't impact the. And I started doing that with my family. I started doing that with friends. Just leave me alone. We're good. Like, we're good. Like, I don't want to hurt you and like me be gone here. And then you be like, fuck, man, like keep going. It's like, yeah, I appreciate that. But like, I can only keep going for so much.
And you were married at the time, right?
Yeah. So that was also
kids or no?
No kids, because like actually it's funny you actually brought that up. I had the same conversation with her about kids, and I said I got a vasectomy and everything like that. I can't. I think people think this is bad when I say this, but it's very truthful. I'm not here for a long time. I've realized that, and it's not from my own doing. I'll give you a little bit of insight. So after that, so we can go back, because I think this will tie a lot of things in. We'll go back to when the cysts happened, and then I had the stump break open. That's when I was like, fuck, man. Like, I was just getting to walking on this. I didn't even have a full year of, like, learning how to walk. So now I got to go back into surgery, lose all the muscle tone, because spina bifida will just start to you start to disintegrate at a certain point. I was at my niece's wrestling match back in March. My bladder doesn't work, and my colon doesn't work. So I have to straight cath. So for other people that don't know what that means, I have to get a catheter and push it through, and then I can drain. I've been doing other process where I would sit on the toilet for almost a full hour just to get my bladder empty at one point. So I had started becoming friends with a lot of my doctors, because they realized, like, wow, you got dealt some really shitty cards, man. And I'm just a nice dude. Like, I get it. Like, this shit sucks. So they would help me out, and he's like, why don't you start straight cathing? That went well. I have to use a suppository to get my bowels to actually move. So anytime I have to go, I have to make sure I regiment, like, okay, this is it. So we're at the wrestling match. It went a little longer than I was expecting. It went 8 hours. I didn't bring a catheter. So I ended up getting a UTI, not realizing I got a UTI. Now, this is recent. This is this year. Got a UTI. I went to my shop. I own a supplement shop. I'm like, I just don't feel right. Something's off. This is 2 days after me being at the wrestling match, but I didn't know I had a UTI at the point. I end up sitting there. I'm sitting there, and funny enough, right before this, it was already a bad day. My stump was hurting. I was feeling about, like, woe is me kind of deal. Fucking life wasn't going the way I was expecting. I walk into my shop. One of my good friends, who's my manager right now, He looks at me, he goes, "What's wrong with you, cranky pants?" And I'm like, "What's wrong with me?" And I just fucking went off. And not on him, just like, I'm dealt these fucking shitty cards, and I'm screaming at this guy, just fucking take me out. Like, don't be a pussy. And he's looking at me like, because he's never seen me. He's like, "I thought the stump wasn't hurt." I go, "The stump hurts every day. It's like having a knife on the side." I said, "But I'm not going to complain, because what can you do?" And you don't want to hear me complaining every day about, "Hey, I'm going through this. Hey, I'm going through this." I put a smile on so I don't show other people my injuries or show. And it's not because I feel weak. It's just like, there's nothing you're going to do for me. So like, I don't want to burden you with that. It's not like it's them to say, "Hey, can you move this?" "Yeah, no problem, man, I got it." And they done. With me going in, so he's like, "I thought it was good." And I was like, "No, it fucking hurts every day. It hasn't gotten better." And I was just screaming to the sky, whatever anybody believes in, God, universe, whatever. And he left. 45 minutes later, started puking, vomit, like just violently, just puking. End up going home. I called my partner, my business partner, and I was like, "Hey man, can you come cover?" Now, mind you, I feel bad because like I've been having a lot of these issues while we opened the business, so he had to man the ship a lot of times. So I felt already bad, like, because I was kind of getting back to my shit. So ended up going home. Thought I had the flu because I was puking, running a fever. I didn't really feel like eating, so I fell asleep from, let's say, 6 o'clock at night. Woke up at like 3 in the morning with 103.5 temperature. The next day I woke up. I remember I looked at my phone and I couldn't even like look at it. And I remember like messaging my wife at the time going, "I don't feel right. I feel like something's off. I feel like I have the flu." And I was like, and I couldn't even I couldn't text. That's how much energy I had. And I said to her, I think I'm dying. Like, it feels like I'm dying. Like, it feels like I'm dying. She didn't hear from me from 11 o'clock. And every 2 hours I was waking up, drinking one of these, popping 600 milligrams ibuprofen, and then falling right to sleep. It was like somebody took the battery right out of me. It was like, if you told me, "Tom, there's $1 billion in that next room, just get to it, have it. Somebody else take it." I didn't have that energy to even get up and go like, "Yeah, let me go get it." So I hear a knock on the door, 9 o'clock at night. My wife comes to the house. She sees me. She's like, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. We gotta go to the hospital." I was like, no, let me check my temperature. And I wasn't being stubborn. I just thought I just had the flu. The next day I woke up around like 9, woke up, and then I just started dry heaving. And I'm like, no, this isn't the flu. So I ended up going to the hospital. This is where everything kind of changed for me. I ended up going to the hospital, get to the ER, they check me in. My blood pressure was 73/31.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. The ICU doctor came down and was like, "I don't know how you're still alive right now. We got to put you into the ICU." Go to the ICU, end up having sepsis and E. coli in my bladder. So started battling that. I remember day 3, I looked at my wife and I go, and I looked at her and I go, I think I'm dying. And she's like, "All right, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Let's go to my funeral. Like, let's figure this out." So we do the whole thing, we're crying and everything like that. Before she had left, she goes to me, "If you can fight this one, please do." That night was one of the hardest battles of my life. I remember I woke up, and again, people can say I'm crazy, whatever. I remember waking up, and I'm like literally on my deathbed at the time. It was probably around 2:45 in the morning, 3 o'clock. I'm holding this lady's hand. I'm looking at her, and she goes, "Are you ready?" And I go, and I look at it, and I see 2 people. There's a guy in a hat and a jacket here, and there's a shadow person here. They both step forward at the same time. I look back at her and I go, "I don't know." Boom. All the pain came back. At that point, I started pressing the button. The nurse comes in, because I become friends with a lot of these people because they just see, like, sucks, man. Like, you just got some shitty cards. Like, so the nurse comes in, she runs in, she's like, you're gray. And all I remember is you're gray. She does my temperature. She's like, no, this is not right. Does my armpit, and she's like, we got to go rectal. So I remember trying to, like, get over. And then as soon as that happened, I was going in, out, and then I woke up the next morning. That changed my life. at that point. That changed everything for me. That made me realize like I gotta be here and I gotta do my job here, and that's to pretty much speak the word of positivity and giving people faith and hope. And I think that's why it gave me so much strength, because those dark days, man. I started a company called Still Here because of those dark days. I remember sitting in the hospital after my spinal cord being erupted, and I looked at the nurse and I go, "Can I talk to you?" It was 9:30 at night, and she goes, "Yeah." I go, "You ever thought about taking your life?" And she goes, "Sleep 1 second." She goes, shuts the door. Now, mind you, this is when I was getting my spinal cord out, when it erupted with the Dorf cysts. She sits next to me. She's like, "Can I sit?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So she sits next to me. I'm in tears. She goes, "I lost my 5-year-old son, and my husband 5 years ago.
Jesus.
I live every day for what you have." She goes, "I see your wife come in here. I see your family come here. You guys don't say anything because what are you going to say? There's only so much you can talk about." She goes, "I wish I would do anything to have them sit next to me." Changed my whole perspective of life. Like, you forget what you have because it's so, everybody has it. Walking, running, breathing fresh air until it's gone. And then you realize, like, it's the small things in life that matter. It's not always the destination. It's that journey to get there. You know, because how many times have you guys did something, you got that reward, and you were like,
yeah, nothing.
Cool, man. I missed the part of the struggle. I missed the part of the learning aspect. Now it's like, I have this trophy. Cool. And I realized at that point, too, it was like, I had to start Still Here. Now, why I think I got sick again is because I challenged something. But I also, before that, I had moved myself away from Still Here because I was gung-ho with Still Here. But when I had that surgery, that's when I was like, let's go. Still Here, Still Here. And it wasn't really, it was ramping up, but it wasn't like, I wasn't putting enough energy into it. So then I kind of pushed it away, and I just started focusing on myself. And I remember when going back to the sepsis, my mom going, "Why are you so devastated?" And I go, "You don't realize that I worked 6 months to do a montage of all my lifts. I was benching 455 for 2. I was T-bar rowing 7 plates for 6.
Jesus.
I was seated lateral raising 75s, and I was going to do a montage. And then the universe is like, no, you're not here for you anymore. You're here to show other people there's no boundaries. Fucking push it." Like, so then that's when I decided to start a podcast studio and starting to interview people that have been through fucking some hard shit in life. You know, and one thing I think a lot of people, they make the mistake is they try to compare. And I get that because in life it's all about comparison. Yeah. But this isn't a trauma competition. You know? So you may have, I've never lost somebody so close to me, so I don't know how that's going to feel. You may have lost your father or your mother, and that's the hardest thing that may destroy me. That may have destroyed you, and maybe a paper cut. Like people go, I always go back to the paper cut. If you've never got a paper cut and you know how bad they hurt, and you hear somebody complain about it, it's like, shut up, it's just a paper cut. It's like, wait, this is the first time they ever got this.
Yeah.
You can't tell somebody like, hey, it's not okay, because like people have to go through their own feelings at some point. My biggest thing is I tell people, don't be a victim to it. Don't let it become your identity.
Yep. That's the hardest part, man. I think we, in our business of health and wellness and tying so much of the mental health aspect into this stuff, everybody's battle is uniquely their own. And we never, I used to be one of these, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And we all have the same 24 hours, that same hard ass mentality that we were raised on. But the reality is, like you said, until you feel how bad it can feel, you don't know. And until you know, you don't have perspective. And unfortunately for a lot of people, in order to change how they think and what they feel, some people have to hit rock bottom, and rock bottom looks different for everybody. For you, dude, I mean, the fact that you've gone through, Jesus, I mean, basically 20 years of fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and never stopping, I'll compare it to your average 48-year-old woman who's trying to lose weight. And she's like, well, everything I do doesn't work. And I don't want to keep trying. What's the fucking alternative? like quitting and then not seeing what could have happened. Like, to me, I just never understood that because, like you said, we don't have a lot of time. And I think when we start to understand our own mortality and we start to value how fast time is going to go by with whether or not we decide to do something, it becomes on us to decide what we do with those last few minutes that we have left. Cause that's really what it is. Like, you could have died multiple times at this point. There's no reason why you should be walking around with the amount of muscle mass and the amount of enthusiasm that you have. But you took all of that negative energy and you applied it into a mission. And so many people today are walking around unfulfilled with no purpose outside of like, I have a job and I have kids. Well, you're supposed to fucking be good at your job and you're supposed to be a good parent. You need to find purpose outside of that shit. So I want you to talk about the purpose side of stuff because I think that it's probably the only thing that's kept you alive at this point.
So that's actually it's a great segue because I've had a couple of dark days recently, just with the world, just with everything going on in the world, you know, just being able to see, like, I always thought I could become a millionaire. I always thought I could do that. And then like COVID kind of showed me like everything was kind of planned. Like, if you don't fuck somebody over, you don't get lucky, or you're not born with a silver spoon, you're really not going to make it to that next level. And I'm sure that people do, and I'm sure that it can happen. That's where luck comes in. I'm not willing to fuck people over. It's just not in my personality. It's very hard for me to be fake. I'm very genuine with a lot of things I say. I would say that I've realized that my drive to keep going is not to prove people wrong. It's not that. It's to show people that you can keep doing, don't put boundaries on your own self. And that's where it's like, that's where Instagram kind of fucks a lot of people up. You know, we compare, and it's like, you got only seeing their highlights. You're not seeing the fact of the 20 years that they put into this just to get that one highlight. Yeah. You're not seeing all of that. So I just want to, when I go to the gym, I just want to show people, I'm never egotistical, because you know why? The gym's a funny thing to me. You got a lot of cocky motherfuckers, right? The gym is never a talent. The gym is all about consistency.
That's it.
You're not running a 4-1. You're not fucking jumping an 8, that's 12-foot vertical. You just went to the gym, you lifted your weights, and you ate your meals. Blow a fucking pack out and see if you can get back up.
Yep.
See if you blow a quad out and see who your identity really is. So when I go in the gym, there's no ego. It could be the smallest dude. It could be the fattest dude. It could be the smallest chick. It could be the fattest chick. I will always put a helping hand out because we all have battles. Again, it's one of those things where your battle may be harder in the sense, but we don't need to compare. Let me just try to help you through this.
Nope.
The life's already hard enough. And that's where it kind of kills me, is like the competition aspect. Life's already hard.
Yeah.
Why make it harder for other people? Why not just give them that piece of like, hey man, you're looking really good. No, it's authentic. Yeah. Does it take anything from you? No. So I realized that the other thing is to show people, don't put boundaries on what you're capable of doing. And the reason why I realized, because like I said, I've had my dark days. I get joy out of making people happy.
Same.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the reason, there's almost a selfish part of being a good coach when you see that light bulb moment hit somebody and you know that you've actually been monumental in changing their lives. There's a lot of satisfaction, and there's almost a selfish aspect to that. Like, I'm doing this partly for me as well, because I have holes in my life and I have holes in my psyche and I have traumas and I have gaps that I want to fill. And by helping you, it helps fulfill me. So I want you to can you give some practical advice? Because again, a lot of our listeners are in the middle of a fitness journey. They're on their way. They're listening to stuff like you and me and Jimmy and everybody else that's got a good opinion on this stuff. But they have those shitty days, and they have those days where they want to fucking quit. And they ask themselves, like, why do I keep going despite not seeing any changes in the mirror or on the scale or my abilities or my mental health? What kind of advice can you give to them practically that'll help them push that extra day, that extra week? I
know this sounds cliche, but truthfully, find your why.
Yeah.
And it can't be an outside source. Outside sources don't hold value. You got to figure out what you want for the internal happiness for yourself. Because when you're sitting in a dark room by yourself, you got to understand what that joy is. Like the gym. The gym's gone. Okay. Well, that purpose of me helping people is kind of gone, right? But if I can make somebody happy, if I can make, like a nurse comes in, hey, love your nails. Hey, gray hair, whatever it is. That puts somebody smile. That was my happiness to make my happiness. So when people go through their dark days, you really got to find your why, because the motivation aspect, you can listen to motivation all you want. They'll give you that little bit of spark, but you really need to find that burning feeling of like, why the fuck am I doing this? Because especially in this world, it will rob you of your happiness. It will rob you blind, and you don't even realize it. You get jaded what life actually can be or is, in a sense. So you have to figure out what that silver lining is and double down on that. That's one thing I don't think a lot of people are doing. They just kind of touch, and never feel anything, never do anything. Double down on something, just one thing. If you're good at reading, fucking double down on it. You're good at riding a bike, double down on it. You're good at motivational speaking, double down on it. What else you got to lose at this point? So it's kind of one of those things where find that one thing that you know inside you, that burning feeling. You'll know what that burning feeling is because you'll feel chills with it. And double down on that. So that's usually my best advice is like, you're going to have your dark days. Feel them. Yeah. Fucking feel them. I'm a hardcore fucking dude. And I can tell you to get up. I can tell you to do this stuff. But you got to feel that pain. You got to feel that darkness sometimes and go, can I get up from this? And you know what? I realized this. Even in your darkest days, if you can just slowly get that hand up, somebody's going to grab you. Somebody will always fucking grab you and help you. And it's one of those things where it's universe, God, divine timing, where you're like, motherfucker. Now that person going like, hey, let's just go, let's do this, let's go get some ice cream. And you're like, well, I haven't been out in 3 days. So let's go. And then you see the sun, you're like, it's a beautiful day. That's a piece of that stone. I always say the bricks. There's bricks to your confidence. So again, like when you ask like what's the best, feel those, remember those days, grieve those days, embrace them, learn from them, and overcome. That's the best, that's literally the best advice I can ever give anybody is learn from your falls and your failures. So when your version 2.0, version 4.0 come out, you've already built that solid armor on you where it's just like, think, all right, cool. Like, let's just keep going. So I think that would be the best advice I can give anybody, especially in their journey of like, I'm not seeing the weight go down. I'm not seeing this. Okay, so what are you going to do then? What are you going to do? Are you going to just sit there? Or are you going to, I actually have a recent client right now. We're having issues getting her to drop weight. I've done low calories. I've done carb cycling. I've done fat cycling. I've done heavy cardio with low calories. I've done high calorie with crazy cardio. And, and she thought I was disappointed. And I go, no. My thing is this, I don't gyp people of their own money. Like, I don't gyp you. So if I feel like, hey, I don't know if I can do this, let me move you to another coach. With certain people, when they've let you into seeing their body, when they've let you into who they are, they don't want anybody else. So I said, that's cool. As long as you know that I'm here working with you, I just don't know how your body's reacting to a lot of things. Let's just figure this out. Send me this, do this. I just feel that when we're doing things to that degree, you can be very honest and you just got to find that silver lining realistically.
Do you think people are just not spending enough time actually feeling feelings? Because we have so many distractions now, whether it's social media, booze, food, drugs, entertainment, whatever it is. It's so easy for us to escape how we actually feel. Dude, in my 20s and early 30s, if I had a bad day, I would medicate and I wouldn't feel it and I would run away from it. And then as I got more mature and I got older and I realized that I wasn't actually helping me, I started to sit further and longer in those shittier days. And that's where the revelation started to come out. And that's when the inner peace started to be a little bit louder. And that's when the confidence started to grow. But for a lot of people that are starting this kind of mental health journey in their 40s and 50s, and they're kind of already like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks attitude, I don't think it's impossible. I just think that, like you said, there's just not a strong enough rooted why. It's like, well, I'm pretty good at my job. Like, what else is there in life? And I'm like, there's a lot left in life. There's, like you said, walking outside and just seeing that it's a nice day and appreciating it, going to have that time with a friend of yours that you haven't seen in a while that you want to just connect with. And people just aren't doing this stuff anymore. And they're spending all this time on social media being like, well, this person's life is amazing and mine sucks. And it's like their life isn't any more less amazing than yours is. It's just that they show all this extravagant shit that you wish you had. But at the end of the day, you have no idea how they procured it. You have no idea of the struggles they had to get through to get there. You have no idea of the inner turmoil that they have because of all these possessions that they now have where they can't live a normal life anymore. You know, you have a guy here that's talking to the audience right now about not being able to have a bowel movement without being able to induce it himself. And we have people that are actively choosing to eat like fucking trash, and then they wonder why their stomachs don't work well. And to me, I look at all this stuff and it's so simple to me. It's like you're in control of almost all of it. Yeah. And the only reason why you're in control of almost all of it is because you're ultimately in control of what's happening in between your ears. It's not an easy thing to master by any stretch. Mm-hmm. But I think until you're actually challenged, until like your kid screaming at you and the dog shitting on the carpet and you having a bad day at work is certainly a challenge.
Yes.
But it happens too often. And until you're actually truly tested, until you lose something that you've actually valued, until that happens to you, I don't think that people are actually equipped to handle some of this stuff because they don't appreciate any of it.
You nailed it. I mean, really. I mean, if there was a hammer and a nail right now, you really nailed it. You know, we have so many distractions to hearing what your purpose is or what life really is. And I do believe, so going back to what you're saying with challenges, how do you know you're a warrior if you've never been through battles? How do you know that you can handle anything if you've never been through your trials or tribulations? You know, and you should really take those as badges of honor when you get past certain things, certain struggles, you know. And people just don't sit in their own feelings anymore. We run, we hide, we do drugs, people are trying to hide what's in here. And when you can sit with yourself and try to find out the root cause to things of why you acted that way, or why did that person do that? And it's like, you got to remember that you have your world, right? Not everybody's doing this. They have their world. And you don't know what they went into their world. So everybody is living. There's a perfect, it's an Instagram little meme. There was a dude talking to another guy and somebody walked in front. He was like, the guy goes, listen, man, everybody's living in their own world. Everybody's got their own problems. And it's such an honest perspective, of like what it is. Like, we all got our shit. And it's like, you see somebody that's going to the gym, cool, but you didn't realize what they did before this or what they had to deal with. You know, I've had a lot of people open about about molestation, about their dad beating the fuck out of them until they pissed themselves. And you don't realize that because they're just, hey, how's it going? Or, why is that guy 400 pounds? You know? And it's like, or why is that girl because she doesn't want anybody to ever look at her again.
Yep.
She doesn't want to feel that way anymore. You know, why is the guy 400 pounds? Because he eats those feelings, because that feeling of just, this feels good, because it's the only thing that's feeling good, because nobody's talking to me, nobody's really giving me advice, nobody's really being with me. So I get why people dig themselves into holes. That's when people lose themselves. So when going back to when you said, like, you really got to, if you can go to work, great. You know, that's going to pay for whatever you got to sustain right now. You can take care of the kids, you can do all these things. But if you don't find out what your purpose is, and again, maybe your purpose is take care of your kids and grow them up to be great adults. Fucking sweet. Do that. Double down on that. Like, be that father, be that mother that's like, boom. I'm not saying be a helicopter parent. You got to let your kids fail. You got to watch them fall. You got to let them get up, you know? Because if you don't and you keep coddling them, that's all they're going to do for their life. Because remember, they feel that victim. So now, I'll get taken care of. I'll get taken care of.
Yep.
Where you got to watch that kid fall and go, let's go, up. And it sucks. As a parent, I can only imagine. Like, again, I'm not a parent, so it's hard for me to speak on it, but I can just tell by my clients because I have millions of children. I've had hundreds of children that I've coached and put through and seen what their lives look like. And I've seen it. Your parents coddled you. You can't take real upfront advice. You can't take that raw of like, oh, you want to take a week off, but you want all these goals, right? You're 19. You should be waking up with fucking dumb energy. You should be waking up where you have that, I got piss and vinegar in me today. Let's see if somebody can take it out of me. You know, the people, it's easier to be a victim instead of trying to figure out what their feelings are and what those root causes are. And like, that's why Still Here is like a big thing for me, is because like, it's one of those things like, yes, it fucking sucked. Life's hard. That's easy. But let's see if you can make it through. Let's see if you can make it through. If you need help, we're here. The brand, like I'm wearing a shirt now. You see somebody down the street walking down with like a Still Here shirt on, you know that motherfucker's been through some shit. You don't have to say anything. You just give him a pound. Keep going, warrior. Keep going. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what gender you are. Doesn't matter what fucking age you are. Because we all go through something in life. So it's hard to, like, it's hard to not, like, I can't judge anymore.
Nope.
You know, and that was when I was younger. It was different because, again, I had an able body. I was kind of good, you know. I was biking. I was doing this. I'm the guy. And I was never an asshole. I was just like, I wouldn't really worry about other people and helping them through their journeys of life. And then I realized, like, no, like, this is my purpose. I have to figure out, God, the universe is giving me a lot of these challenges to figure out who this is so I can give this to certain people and bottle it up and go, let's go. I know it sucked. I know your knees hurt. Let's go. Up. Keep going. But what am I going for? Sometimes you don't know what the fuck you're going for. Sometimes you just keep putting that brick down. And that brick may be reading 5 pages today. And hey, maybe in, I don't know, 5 years, you decide to write your own fucking book. And you have that knowledge. You go to the gym. That's a step forward. That's a brick down. By the end of the month, by the end of the year, you're going to have a fucking castle and you didn't even realize you were building it because you were just doing that one daily job. But remember, keep moving forward. Yeah. Because as soon as you stop.
Am I still really delayed?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, it's what you just said about sometimes you don't even know what you're going for. You just keep laying that brick every day. That's exactly the point of what you said earlier with paying attention to the focus instead of the goal, because you don't know sometimes in the process towards a goal, it turns into another goal. And if you're too dead set on the one goal, you're not going to even realize or acknowledge the path that's bringing you to the other goal, that the process that started with that one was actually leading you to.
Yep. You just, all you're doing is preparing for the war.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. You know, and again, it's, you don't always have to have that like, oh, I'm doing it because of this. It's just, you know, you're doing it for something, and whether it's self-help, whether it's helping somebody else, whether it's even self-love. And, you know, and I that's where people really need to step back and just listen. And that's why the phones are such a distraction. Again, it's good and bad, but I think it's like anything else. The human personality is an addictive personality. You know what I mean? So it's like, that feeling felt good. Let me do it again. That feeling felt good. Let me do it again. Yeah. Until that feeling starts to come from this to this to this, and now you got to figure out another feeling. You know, that's how a lot of drug addicts happen. It's just, and it's the same thing with anything in life, with food, with working. Some guys are just overly doing work and they don't know what life is. Yep. You know, because when those castles decide to fall, and that's why it's kind of good that I can go back to where my mom's like, why are you so sad? That castle that I built is gone. I got to rebuild that motherfucker again. I lost 25 pounds in 10 days. And it was muscle because the body was just in an eating formation at that point. I was eating less. There was 5 days that I didn't eat out of those 9. And the other days I was eating only 300, 400 calories and fruit because I couldn't handle any other food in my stomach at that point. Keep putting that brick down. Even if you don't, like, that's where the goal out, that's because you'll always get to that battle or that reward. And you may not even know what that reward is. It could just show up one day. It could just be like, fuck, I'm ready for this war. I'm ready. The opportunity's here. Let me take it. I've already built this. Let's go. And that's where I feel like people just need to remember, if there's anything you can do, just kind of self-improvement every day. And sometimes, bro, you may be stagnant for weeks, months. Don't let it be years.
Jimmy's in a flat phase right now. Jimmy's in a flat phase, but he's feeling good though. He's finding other things to do, and
I'm all right. Yeah, no, but it's like you feel it, and getting back to it. Unless you've done that kind of work, you don't realize how much that physical work makes you feel good. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are just going through life like everything that you were describing, just going through life, and they don't realize how good feels. And what you just even described, I don't know if you ever heard of the book The Alchemist. I've talked about it on here and on my page. It's literally this. It's a fiction book, but the whole thing is just following this path and then just seeing where it kind of ends up taking you. It's continuing to show up every day, and there's detours and this and that. But yeah, it's that. So you would fiction book, short, easy read, but it's right up, I think, your alley with the message that you have.
Yeah, I definitely have to listen because I've been doing a lot of listening to audiobooks myself. And again, that's another brick down. Yeah. You know, there's some days you can put down 5 bricks. There's some days you don't put down any. Just remember, don't take a brick away.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing. So like just doing the audiobooks, like I have a 4th grade spelling and reading level. I came to this country into the hood. I was the only white family in the hood. So you can already imagine how that already worked out for me. With blonde hair, page boy cut at 6 years old, 7 years old. Yeah, it didn't go so well. They kind of battle tested me in that point too. So you got to remember, like, you got to just keep driving forward. And sometimes you don't know what you're driving for. You don't know. And you might just, one day, the opportunity pops up, but you're ready for it. You know, and just embrace it. Embrace it. Live in the, you know, I feel like we're not living in the now, the present. And people are like, what does that really mean? I go, have you grounded yourself in a long time? And then what is that? Go outside and just close your eyes and look up at the sky. We're animals. We forget that. We forget that fucking portion of like you said before, Jim, it's the fact of being able to just go outside and take a deep breath, you know, and just, it feels good. You know, I tell guys like, oh, you must love going to the gym. No, I have millions of other fucking things I got to do. But you know what? But once I'm done here, then I'm happy. You know, when I was younger, I always did it for vanity reasons. And you get older, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. It becomes more mental than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of where I'm at right now is like, the gym's great. I love the gym. It shows other people that keep pushing forward. But I have other things I got to do. You know, some days I take more rest days than I usually would, but I'm also doing other things to that time frame. I'm not just going home and sitting down and just, and this is nothing, and sitting there just smoking weed and just vegging out. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We do need those days to reset. We do need those days. But when you start stringing too many days together, that's when you start to remember that brick will start to slide off, drop. Slide off, drop. And you don't want that aspect because you're not self-improving yourself. You're not helping, maybe not even helping yourself, just helping other people at that point. Just helping other people at that point. And that's usually comes down to like what my why is. And I think if people can say like, I don't know what my goal is, but I'm going to do some kind of self-improvement today, whether it's read a book, listen to a book, understand myself a little more, sit with myself for half an hour with nothing around.
Yeah, doing hard things is not just physical.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can't take a shit without bringing your phone with you, that might be the first hard thing you do today.
Yep.
Is just take a shit with no phone, you know? So doing hard things.
You'll ever take.
Yeah, but it's like to set a timer and be like, I'm going to do 30 minutes, no TV, no phone. And that might be the hard thing that you did. And it's like you guys were saying earlier, that's where you start to discover things about yourself when you do sit in that silence. There's nothing better to me than, on like an evening sitting out in the backyard and just looking up like you were describing. I love doing that, just sitting out there, get a fire, nobody's around. Listen to what's going on out in nature, cops chasing cars on streets on the highway in the near distance. Just think about all that stuff. But I love that. And I'm totally with you with that we are these animalistic beings and we've lost touch with nature.
Yeah. It's like, when you look at fire, you're like, you get mesmerized. That's our ancestry. We've been here for thousands of years. Like, you can't just pull away from that shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those things that you can't just pull away from. So I always say, just try to ground yourself in what life really is, because the simple shit is life. Yeah. You know, how green the trees are, how blue the sky is, how cold the wind chill is. Like, embrace those things because they're free. Fucking for right now. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. They'll find a way to tax that. Don't worry.
I was gonna say,
it's heading in that direction.
Air free for now.
Yeah.
But that's even like those difficult emotional times. Like those are times to sit and go, this is what this feeling feels like. Really? Like this is what the feeling that a human feels when they feel hurt or in physical pain or emotional pain or whatever it might be, or to dig deep, like everything that you described. I was fucking getting chills, but I couldn't jump in at any point, which is probably better. But what do you think that
it's gooder.
Do you think that people find their purpose or create their purpose? Because you mentioned earlier about finding your purpose. What do you think of that? The concept.
That's actually a really good question. I think that, and by the way, you guys are asking great questions, because it's kind of like the question is like, do you think your life's planned out, or do you think you have free will? It's pretty much the same question to it. Do you feel like, you know, whatever's out there has this already planned out? Oh, he's going to make the right turn here. He's going to make the left. Or do you think it's just, you kind of got to figure it out and go like, okay, this feels like the right direction. This feels like the right direction. So going back to your question is, I think this was already, in a sense, planned, you know, because I came out with Spina Bifida. It took me a long time to understand and sit with myself, and a lot of tears and a lot of anger. So I think I had to figure out why. Why was this happening to me? You know, and there was many times I would scream up to the sky and just be like, why? What the fuck, man? Like, I guess I'm really shitty. Like, this is shitty, bro. This is hard. Like, life's already hard. Now you made it even harder for me. But then I realized, like, fuck it, man. You're strong enough to show other people to keep moving forward, whatever it is. And this shit's already hard enough, so let's just figure it out. And listen, maybe that's some bullshit in my head. But after seeing, like, a lot of those things, I feel like, you know, after holding my grandmother's hand, because I found out, by the way, this is a really crazy thing. So that lady's hand that I was holding, I asked my mom, my dad, I was like, can I see pictures of my grandparents? Because they both died very young. My dad's mother died on the ice skating rink Christmas Day. He was 6 years old. They just got a brand new pair of skates, and she died at 32 years old. My mother's mother died at 33 or 34 with breast cancer.
Holy shit.
All of her sisters and brothers in Scotland, rural Scotland. The father couldn't take care of them because, like, remember, he was welding, she was staying at home. That's what the 80s were, and or the early 70s too. And then he had to put them in an orphanage. So I asked him to see the pictures, and I shit you not, my mom brought out a picture of her mother, nothing. My dad brought out the picture of his mother, and I just, boom. It hit me like a fucking ton of bricks, and I was like, that's the lady right there. In the same dress, in the same everything. And my dad goes, that picture's been hanging there since we moved in. And I go, Dad, you know, that's how it's funny. Sometimes you pass by life and you don't realize, and you don't make those two connections. And when I seen that picture, I was like, okay, that's my guardian angel. That's my sacred, whoever that is, to whatever, you know? And then that's when I was like, my purpose is to teach people, you know, like, okay, I'll go through the wars to try to help you understand your wars and your Rubik's Cube in your life so you can move forward and achieve something. And whatever that is, whatever the fuck that may be, to achieve something so you feel good inside, because inner happiness is everything. Because if you don't have that, you really don't have anything. You know, because why do people commit suicide? My firm believer, a lot of people commit suicide is because, one, they don't want to let other people down. Two, they're afraid of the challenge. And three, they don't know they have so many expectations on themselves, they don't know where to start. Because if you think about this, ready? Make it another day. That's what I was saying. Hey, if you're going to kill yourself today, right? And this is real talk. Why not tomorrow? Give it one more day. You don't know what opportunities may drop in your fucking lap at that point. So give it one more day, because remember, you're already checked out at this point. So put everything to the house. Put everything to the house and bet on that motherfucker.
Yep.
Bet on it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you've already died in your head. So fucking play the game.
I'll share a quick story. One of my clients, cancer survivor, bariatric surgery, down 200 plus pounds. He's probably one of the most badass, tough people I've ever met in my life. I mean, very similar story to how much pain you've had to go through. Probably he's had to suffer and spent years on fucking doses of morphine and Dilaudid that would put down a cow, and he somehow still gets up every day and tries again. And his whole thing was that he wanted to lose all this weight, and he wanted to get skin removal surgery to finally walk around in the body that he earned. And that opportunity momentarily got taken away from him because he got another cancer diagnosis recently. And he was just hopeless. He just called me. He's like, I don't have any life left. I don't have any fight left. I don't have any purpose left. I don't know why I'm even bothering to breathe and live another day. I said, dude, at this point, if you've already mentally checked out, like you truly do not care if the lights go out tomorrow or today, then if the American healthcare system has told you that you can't get your skin removal surgery here because you're high risk, go to fucking Turkey, go to Mexico, go to the DR, find a fucking back alley surgeon somewhere. If that's what's going to give you the life that you want to live, and that's the thing you've always aspired to do, who cares? If you die on the table, you were prepared for it anyway. If you don't and you survive, then you got exactly what you wanted. So in either case, you win. And by divine intervention, as it always does, 3 days later, he calls me back. He goes, I found another surgeon. They reran the blood work. They're going to consider me high risk, but they're still going to do the surgery. Skin removal surgery is set for August 12th, and he's never been happier. So Can you imagine if we didn't have that phone call? Can we imagine if we never chatted and he decided that that was going to be his last day? And how many people don't have that phone call? And how many people don't reach out, and how many people don't want to sit with that feeling? So if anything, after hearing Tom's story, after hearing a multitude of stories of people that we've had to come on here, like, folks, if you're listening to this and you're having those doubts about something as innocuous as fat loss, which really for most of you is cosmetic to begin with. Most of you aren't obese. You don't have health consequences due to your weight. You're doing this purely out of vanity, purely because you're trying to fit some fucking bullshit societal norm standard that doesn't even pertain to you. You have to find a deeper reason why you want to eat well, why you want to go to sleep at a certain hour, why you want to drink your water, why you want to eat your food, because it's not about you. There's other people watching, and there's other people that might benefit from your work. And I think that's the thing we have to really focus on, is we have no idea who we might be inspiring at any moment of our lives. And if we give up, we give other people permission to give up.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It's actually a great way to, and to your client, man, keep going, bro. Keep fucking going. You know what I mean? Every stone unturned. Fucking just keep flipping them over. Because again, like, all right, you're afraid to go to Mexico and get that surgery because what? You're gonna get kidnapped? You're already dead. Fucking do it. You know what I mean? What are you afraid of? Like, really, what are you afraid of? You know, I just made a post like, what are you afraid of? People laughing at you? Cool. Remember, don't take things personally, because that's their own inner demons coming out. You know, it's when people make fun of other people, it's because they either don't have anything else to worry about, or they never worked on themselves, or they're trying to. It's like a bully in school. Why is he a bully? And then you don't realize dad's beating the fuck out of him at home. Yep. You know, it's so again, just fucking double down on something that you enjoy, or what's the worst that's gonna happen? Fuck it. You know, just close your eyes and just take that first step. You know, and one thing with COVID, and I think I've learned this pretty well. COVID kind of fucked up a lot of people in the sense of the schedules. One thing I realized is that if you can keep yourself on some schedule, write that shit down. You know, we're old school dudes where, like, we all were pen and paper, pencil and paper. Don't write on your phone. Pen on a piece of paper, write it down, and look at the piece of paper every day. Go, okay, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. This is what I got to. Because there's a piece of information I was given to a long time ago, and I think it could help a lot of people. 99% of people are looking for the 1% to tell them what to do. So write down your goals, make that piece of paper your 1%, and fucking follow it. Follow it. Because, you know, nobody's going to come save you from you. Like, I look you in the camera right now. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to pull you off your fucking couch to tell you to go to the gym, to tell you to read that book, to tell you to go to work. You know why? Because everybody's got their own shit going on. So you got to save yourself because nobody's coming to save you. You may, like I said, if you can get that hand up, I'm telling you, somebody will grab you. But if you sit and you don't do anything, no one's coming to save you, you know? And that's the biggest thing is have some kind of pride in what you do. Make yourself a schedule and follow it. I got to wake up. I got to drink water. Okay, 20 ounces of water. Put yourself in a schedule because COVID kind of fucked that up. It was like, oh, you're working from home now. Oh, now people are in depression. Now 6 foot apart. Nobody's really talking to anybody. Remember, we're animals, but we have to be together. We're packed animals. You know, as much as people are like, oh, I like being myself. Cool. Let's see how long you can be by yourself after a year.
Yeah.
Let's see where you're gonna. Like, you know, because I guarantee you're not going to be as happy as you think you will be. So just write those things down. So again, like going back to the whole, literally the fitness thing. If you're doing it for vanity reasons, great. But that's going to fall apart real quick when you don't see the results that you want.
And what happens when you don't get the compliment? I've said that before. I mean, so people, you're not going to get to this goal figure, and people are going to say along the way, like, "Oh, you look great, you look great." They're going to stop saying that at some point. They're not going to say you look great every day. So if you're doing it for the compliments, then what are you going to do when the compliments stop? You know, you're right back to feeling. You're going to find something else to feel insecure about. You know, but like you said, like creating the routine for the sake of the routine and knowing the benefit of that, just that for yourself, showing up for yourself and actually following through with small steps. That's how we build confidence. It's not from having a magical body transformation. You know, we hear that all the time. You know, I'm still that little fat kid. I'm still that fat kid. You know, the body doesn't change those things. If like everything you guys talked about don't happen, you know, that internal work, the mental things, the figuring out your whys and all that. But like you said, in the meantime, create the routine, create some structure in your life. You'll figure out the stuff along the way.
Absolutely.
I think that's such an important message for a lot of people because you can get caught in that healing trap where you're working so much just on healing that you never take action and you never actually enjoy life. You're like, I got to figure everything out first. We see people do that with business. We see people do all this other stuff, but then we fall for it maybe with some of this, you know, internal healing type work. But how fucking boring would your story be if all that shit didn't happen to you? You'd have a story like mine. You'd be lame as fuck. So why did it happen to you? This is why. This conversation's why. The way that you're helping people is why. I mean, you wouldn't be nearly as passionate, I would assume, if this stuff didn't happen to you.
Yeah. Listen, man, I could have been on disability when I turned 21. I could be on pain management every day. I could play the woe is me card. I could do all that. You know, that's a checkout card. These are checkout cards for me. Like, I have those privileges in a sense where it's like, okay, I'm going to do state insurance. I'm going to get paid this amount of money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on pain. Listen, I've been through a lot. You got to feel fine. If that's what you think your goal is, I'm going to tell you it's going to be a fucking really sad life for you because you're going to keep looking for those dopamine drops and dumps where it's just that one thing, boom. That one thing, boom. And then next thing you know, remember, those booms don't keep getting boomy. They get smaller. So you really just gotta figure it out. You really gotta figure out what you're here for. And again, you may not find out for years. You may not find out for a long time, but if you continue to put that brick down, you will find it. And one thing you were saying about healing, and I think this is a good piece of information. You can't heal in the place that you're, you know, like whether that's a relationship, whether that's a situation, the cruel truth to this is sometimes you got to cut those things off to heal. And I think that's really hard when people are like, that's the only thing I know. Like
that's what they're addicted to. It's the same addiction as anything else.
It's absolutely true, man. So like, you can't heal where you've been hurt or where you are hurt. And I get that's a safety place for you, but if you're just going to continue to keep going through this same rigmarole, it's not going to change. And you got to make that. You got to make that effort in something. And if life is so monotonous for you, perfect example. Go to a different grocery store. You may run into a high school buddy that you haven't seen in years, and he's like, hey, man, you want to grab a beer tonight? Wow, nobody's asked me out to go out and hang out for a long time. And especially for us guys, it's like, hey, shut the fuck up. Don't tell me your problems. No, I'm going to tell, like, if you're willing to let me open up, I'm going to tell them. And I'm not going to say, I need a pat on the back. I need anything like that. I just need to get off my chest sometimes. You know, a good friend of mine, I'm a fixer, and I'm sure you guys are fixers as well, right?
Yeah, it's
Being
easy to jump
coaches.
in. Yeah, it's easy to jump in with solutions. Great advice is, do you just want me to listen right now? Do you need an ear, or do you need solution? Or do you need some help with it? Because otherwise, I'll just want to jump right in.
And that was one of the biggest pieces of advice she had given me. She like stopped me and she's like, Tom, I'm not trying to have you try to fix this. I just need a vent. And that's where I feel like a lot of us guys are at, where, listen, I don't need you to try to fix it. And maybe you can give me a piece of advice, but I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
Because we'll have been always told as children, be a man, be strong. And I'm with that to a degree. But why not just open up? You know, are you afraid? And that's why I feel like with Still Here, I can step forward and go like, hey, listen, my humility is as high as it's ever going to be. Who wants to step next to me? You can make fun of me. Cool. I'll take all the bullets. I'll take all of it. I don't care. Like, you're not going to say anything worse than I've already said to myself or done to myself. Yep. I'm going to fucking promise you that.
Yep.
And I see that smile on your face, Armin.
Me and Rob love sharing with each other. He's a great listener for me. We were just doing that yesterday. Well, he was doing it for me yesterday. We'll check in.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's why I like when guys text and they text you like, hey, how you doing? And sometimes a simple good is enough, you know? Yeah. But when they reach out to you like that, and you really do have shit going on, let them know. Because they are reaching out for a reason. Because have you ever just woke up and thought about the person you haven't thought about in 8 years? You think that's just weird? You know what I mean? Like, send the text out. Even if it's a problem that you guys had a long time ago, guess what? We're gone in the next 100 years. And the new generation's here. And so those little fucking problems you're going through, well, he did this. Listen, I always say this. I only cut people off when I know it's a character flaw. When I know it's a character flaw. And when I know, like, oh, you did that to fuck me up. Okay. But, like, it's like the kid spilling milk. Are you going to whip his ass because he spilled milk? Listen, you think that kid wanted to spill the milk? Now he's got to clean it up. He wanted to drink that shit. So why yell at him? That's already hard enough. So let him just deal with it. Hey, clean it up, get it done. But don't beat his ass because he didn't want to spill the milk. So again, like, that's where karma comes into play. And I have this conversation multiple times. You know, karma is a very interesting one for me. You know, people always think it's because, like, watch out for karma, watch out for karma. The thing is, like, do you blame the poor kid for stealing the bread? Do you think I should get karma? Because he was hungry. As humans, we don't get a lot of love, especially us males. We don't get a lot of, like, outturnal love. Like, how many times somebody say, man, you look fucking handsome?
Every day.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, look at that beard.
I generally say it to myself when I wake up every day. I go, it happened again. And then I say to myself, what happened? And then I say to myself, I got better looking. It's part of my morning routine.
But it's true, man. You know, that's good, though, because you got to be your biggest fan.
You do. You do.
You know what I mean? And I think we live in a world where people are like, you can't be egotistic. But where's the line blur at that point where you're trying to give yourself, like, the credit of, like, man, I've been busting my ass today. Oh, you can't just say, wow, I did a great job today. You know, is that narcissistic? Or then, like,
yeah, and it's like if your ego is to a point where you're completely dismissing other people, it's a problem. You can absolutely love yourself, think you're great, all that kind of stuff. We should all feel that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just all about you all the time, then
different story.
So if you're trying to figure out what the difference is, like, I don't want to be egotistical by being cocky about myself or whatever. That's how you could maybe figure out where the line is. If you don't give a shit about anybody else and it's all about you, that's a completely different problem. Yeah.
And Armin, you said something before about fulfilling something in us that, you know, gives us that joy. You know, I had this conversation. I have a lot of conversations. Having a supplement shop, I get to talk to a lot of guys, a lot of girls. So it's really cool that I get to see face to face. I'm like really in the public and with even clients and things like that. Fuck. I was going on a good. It was gonna go on a good one too. I lost the train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I do it.
But yeah, going to the supplement shop. The supplement shop's great because I get to talk to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
You know, I get to be that mentor. I realize I'm not gonna have kids, so it's good that I can really be a coach. And like you had said before, if you never had that conversation, he never felt comfortable to reach out to you. Who knows what he would have done. And having that perspective of you going, hey, dude, fucking, what's the worst going to happen? You've already checked out. Just fucking play the game. Put it all to the house. Go to this country. Go to this country. Do this. You don't know what's going to happen. So, being a good coach is somebody that's going to be able to listen. Not always about your ears either. Sometimes about your eyes. And being able to digest that and give them some kind of information they need at that point to get ahead. I've taken a lot of people from like 300 pounds, 400 pounds to literally on stage, such as Karen, one of my clients. I think you had posted her up before, which I appreciate because I don't think she gets enough credit for what she actually done. And again, I don't think everybody needs to get pat on the back. But I know like her story, and it's another incredible one where you're just like, fuck, you made it through. You made it through. Like, when people say it's hard, you made it through. So I've realized that you can't. I've always said this with coaching people like that because it's all here. It's like when people get the bypass surgery and then 6 years later they're fat again. They didn't work on that inner demon. And I'm there to work on these people's demons. I tell them, like, let's open up. And I think me opening up helps them open up.
Absolutely.
Because that's humility, Yeah.
Well, you're creating that space that nobody's ever really given them because they've never really been able to share. I think the problem is that people are afraid to share their shit because they don't want to burden somebody or they don't want to sound like they're asking for help or they're whining. At the end of the day, I just think that our job as coaches and our job in this field is not just to create protocols for people. That's easy. It's to really figure out what is it that's holding you back and why is it that we know who's holding you back. It's you. Yeah. Why do you continue to hold yourself back? And we've all done it. Like until somebody showed me a mirror of myself, I wasn't about to change.
No, it's true, man. And I think that's why you become a good coach isn't somebody who knows everything about dieting, everything about training, but also somebody that knows how to get to the psyche of somebody and really be able to pull that inner demon out and feed it the right amount of information and energy so they can fuel it. I always say to like my clients, like, oh, Fat Judy's coming out. Like, you better tuck her back. And I'm very honest, and they're just like, yeah, you're right. I got to get this fucking bitch taken care of. And again, I attract people that are very, I don't want to say hardcore, but just people that have been through some shit. Obviously, they see the story that I've been through. So I attract those kind of people where, again, I don't ever sit there and, in a sense, smack the dog. Oh, you fucked up? Yeah. Now you got to go do this. You got to do this. I'm not here to reprimand you. I'm here to teach you. And I think that's where a lot of clients, they don't want to reach out. And it's like, oh, why did you leave? Well, I just felt like I wasn't getting the information, but you never contacted me. Well, I didn't feel like I was going to burden you. And it's like, no. That's my job. You came to me for a reason. Let me figure this out. And if you don't want to, and this is done, cool. Listen, at the end of the day, I get it. But you're hiring us for a reason. Open up to us. Open up to us to the degree that you want to open up, so we can seem to fuel that energy that you need to move forward and to keep pushing forward. Like I've had clients on low calories, and I'm like, hey, there's certain weeks where I say we're gonna hold, and then there's other weeks where I go, we're pushing. Now, this is where words play a big role, and you put a lot of emphasis behind certain words. I'm always a nice guy. Don't make me mad. Now you made me mad. Now we got to figure this out. Same thing with like, hey, we're good. Don't be so hard on yourself. We're not pushing right now. But when I say we're pushing. You see, because if I go into, we're going to push, guess what? They're just going to be like, yeah, we're good here. We're good. But if I go, hey, it's okay that you had those couple extra chips, that cookie. Don't be an asshole. You can have a cookie here. You can have 2 cookies. But now we're going to 3, 4. You're becoming that asshole that you didn't want to be. And because now you're feeding that person that you didn't want anymore. So a lot of my clients hear it in their head. They hear my voice like, hey, don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole this weekend. You know exactly what that means. Anytime you've overeaten, you go the next day, you're like, or drink. Man, I was a fucking asshole last night. I shouldn't have done that. That right there will start to get in their brain. So they're at a party. They grab that third cook. I don't want to be an asshole. Tom said I can have my burger and fries. I can have 1 or 2 cookies. Why are we having a fucking 6, 7 cookies right now? This is where the problem comes in. So also emphasizing certain words to really fuel that energy, fuel that person. So like when I look at you and go, like, don't worry, you're beating yourself up for nothing. We're pushing this week. There's 2 different energies to it. Because now I don't want to hear fucking excuses. we can play the patty cat game here. We can get you to a certain point. But when I need to push hard, we're pushing. So put everything in this week. And then we'll go back to somewhat normal. So I kind of feel like that's a good way that I've been able to coach people, especially coming from such high body fat and being, in a mentally trapped place, to be able to start to pull them out of that with certain words and affirmations and things to that degree, and giving them the credit when credit's due. Like I've had clients that every day they needed the pat on the back, and that's just not my kind of client, because when you said it before, when you stop getting that, hey, you look good today. What is your next move? What is your next move? And I'm not saying you can't do that in the beginning. I'm not saying that, because you really got to build that kind of relationship. But what is their next move when nobody's giving them that pat on the back? Nobody's saying, hey, good job today. And again, that's where I think it changes a lot of people's mindsets to be like, holy shit, Tom said fucking good job today. I should feel good, because when I don't, now it's going to hit harder than me going, oh, you did that today? All right, no problem. Oh, no problem. And now I'm sure you guys have clients that I call them whales, meaning they're going to pay. They don't really care. When I was younger and I needed the money, I would hold them. Now, my reputation is worth more than the fucking money it'll ever be worth. My word is going to be worth more than the money that will ever be worth. Because money will always come. Your reputation was going to stick with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Money's not hard. We live in America. It's not hard to make it here.
No, especially when you sell feet pics.
It's a Rom's favorite.
Especially that little foot pic down there. It's all right. We'll do an OnlyFans collab together one of these days.
Well, I was going to call it Stumps Only.
Well, dude, listen, I think that this was wildly valuable from a mindset perspective for a lot of people. This could be it should run on a loop on Monday mornings when people are feeling down on themselves. But I appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sure you've shared it a million times, and it probably doesn't get any easier to say it out loud. So thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing your story with us, Jimmy. Do what you always do.
Yeah, one, you can tell us later. I just want to know if you're ever going to get any of the muscle that you used to have back, scrawny bitch.
I know, seriously. I look like a fucking wiffle ball bat over here.
He's jacked. For those of you who don't watch this on YouTube, we ask every guest a question at the end so that we can compare and judge them to every former guest. So we will ask you our final question. Bye-bye.